Welcome to the EvoSec podcast. My name is Eric Davis, one half of the Tactical Twins. Unfortunately, Aaron could not be here. I'm going to ask my guest to give him a hard time for that. But he did give his condolence, or his hellos to you two. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I have two very, very special guests. And frankly, two guys that have become some of the most important people in my life. I have Chris Lapre of Asymmetric Options, and then I also have John Valentine of Deeds of Arms on the show again. Welcome, guys.
Welcome, brother.
See you.
Yeah, and
thank you, I should say.
What's that again, John?
I said welcome. I'm kind of tired, but yeah, thanks for having me on, brother.
Yeah, I said the same thing, so don't feel bad, dude. Yeah, thanks for having us on. We'll start there.
Hey, you know what? The coolest part about this show, and especially with friends, is we just have fun. We can cut up, we can jack up as well. Mess stuff up, and it doesn't matter. Which we're good rolling with the punches. I think all of us would agree. Now, guys, I'm not going to ask you to give your full bio because I'm going to point folks to past shows, but just give me a summary bio real quick. Go ahead and start with John.
Hey, guys. John Valentine. I've spent the last 2 decades or so coaching in combatives, shooting tactics. I'm a Brazilian jiu-Jitsu black belt, competitive shooter, one of the founding members of the Combatives Association, host of the Combatives Summit. My focus and my mission in the tactical training business is bridging the gap between fighting, weapons-based training, and real-world application. Help people to develop skills to protect themselves and their families. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Awesome. Excellent. And I'm going to say real quick before I have Chris give his bio, I want folks to understand, John is humble, but what he has been doing with the Combatives Summit is massive. I'm just going to say this. I think it's one of the most important events that folks can attend, just flat out. I attended the first event. Unfortunately, my day job kept me from last year, and it's keeping me from this year because I'm going to be overseas. But what I would tell folks is that if you can get to the Combatives Summit in October 24th through 26th, now I always screw up pronouncing this D'Iberville, Mississippi. Boy, I really screwed that up.
Yeah, D'Iberville.
D'Iberville.
So. Yeah,
I'll get that at some point. But yes, that event is incredible. Folks, get in that. Certainly get in that. It's going to be one of the most important events of your life, I promise. And I'm that's not hyperbole, by the way. The best combatives instructors in the world are at these events. So get out there and get signed up. And I will have a link to be able to sign up for that. With that said,
I'll put the check in the mail, brother.
we do what we can. We're going to support you 100%. So, Chris, how about you, bud? Give us a summary bio, brother.
Chris Lapre, man, spent the past 27 and a half years in law enforcement and recently retired full-time. I'm still a reserve with my agency, still active in training and some of the other stuff that goes on. But majority of my career was spent in special investigations, SWAT, and then I retired as a lieutenant over our narcotics, anti-smuggling, and our SWAT team. So 17 and a half years overall on SWAT. And just, like I said, I worked gangs. I was assigned to DEA for 5 years. I was a street crime sergeant and then promoted all the way up through our unfortunately, to a lieutenant's position and retired from there. I'd probably still be working if I was still a sergeant. So, but yeah, been involved in a bunch of the border stuff. You know, our county is very, very, very busy on the border end. Even though we're not a border county, we butt up against the reservation on the west side of our county, which is basically we're the first law enforcement that the cartels and contact. You know, we're the first real law enforcement because there's Indian police out there, but they're so spread out and so thin, man. They can't have an effect. So very, very busy on that end.
Yeah, and is it okay to mention the county you worked for?
Yep,
Yeah.
Pinal County Sheriff's Office in Arizona.
So I know we had mentioned that before on the show. I just, that is a dangerous county. There's a
Yeah,
lot of activity. Chris has definitely been, in the mix of it for certain. And again, I like to mention how folks influence me. And Chris hosted my first ShivWorks ECQC in 2010. So that was the first place that I met Chris, and we've been friends and training at events ever since. And again, he's a great friend, and I really appreciate you, buddy.
yeah, dude. I can't believe it's been 15 years already.
It's
It's
freaking
insane.
crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys. So Chris, you hosted Matt Pranka and Ben Stoeger
Yeah.
for their pistol and carbine class. Is that what they're calling that class?
Yeah, so they did pistol carbine was the first 2 days, and then pistol was the next 2 days. So it was a four
Oh, okay.
days total. Um, John ended up coming out for the pistol carbine class, and I was talking to Matt, and he's like, "Hey, man, uh, you know, John Valentine's here," and I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Where?" And he pointed him out to me. So that's how I went over and introduced myself to John because we've obviously had a lot of communications within the same realm, but never actually met face to face. And I wanted to say hello. So it was really cool. We had a really lot of good people in that class, man. A lot of, he was there. Joel Park was there. A couple other dudes. So it was awesome environment to be around with these guys.
Well, I was thinking that it might have been the first time that you and John met.
Mhm.
So yeah, very very cool, very cool. Well, I'll just start the conversation off this way. I've not trained with either Matt or Ben. I of course met Matt when he was down at the Combative Summit in Florida a couple of years ago. But I've like anybody else that Ben Stoeger puts out some incredible free information. He puts the whole classes essentially, the at least the instruction portion online. And so I did review the class that you guys attended. And what I would say, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have some excellent instructors out there that do pretty good in teaching you, telling you what to do, being a little more diagnostic from their end. But wouldn't you guys say that what Ben and Matt probably do better than a lot of instructors is they teach experientially? Would you guys agree with that? It's more experiencing um, through their methods than telling you exactly what to do. Am I correct in that?
John, you
Yeah,
want to go ahead and answer that?
yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I think, yeah, they call it an inductive learning strategy.
Inductive. There you go.
Um, I would, and I think also that you kind of walk in having an expectation because of like how Ben is very very vocal on social media, and so is Matt, right? Um, and Yeah, so you think you have an expectation as far as like what's going to happen or how the coaching is going to be. And I'll say this too, like my value structure isn't around being with personalities, right? Like I coming from Brazilian jiu-jitsu, one of the things I experienced there was that a lot of world champions are absolute garbage coaches. And a lot of them, they get good by accident or really organically, um, through just people, just through demand, because most of the time people they just want to touch the magic. And that was something I was like, I kind of came into that class with that bias that perhaps Ben is that way. Um, but I'll say Ben is actually, not only is he an incredible coach, but he's also a very encouraging coach as well. And for somebody who's like such a ball buster online, it's like you just didn't. That's not something I really expected. And also how they were very open, and, or I should say, transparent about how they are doing things, and that they are constantly hot washing and constantly refining amongst themselves afterwards. They're not. Yeah, it's not, there is some organic process, because obviously Ben and Matt, they're both big draws, but they are also deliberately working on their delivery, on how they teach, um, making sure that people are walking away based on their personal experience through what the training methods are, as opposed to like, man, Ben said it, so that's true. They're like, they're not creating. I Ben and Matt, they get this rap about creating a cult. But really, the truth is, cult and creating a culture, right? That's only three letters apart. And so it's like, look, this is essentially what we demand of our community, which is a pursuit of excellence. And that's something, the same thing, like I could relate to, because jujitsu is the same way, the combatives world is the same way. As an instructor, one of the things I cannot tolerate is a vague prescription like, oh, get off and make space, or situational awareness. I fucking hate vague prescriptions for as opposed to having actionable modalities or training methods, as far as like how to develop certain skills. And that's really like how me and Matt really got along. And then seeing Ben firsthand, I was very impressed, very impressed.
Now, what I would tell you, John, is that I think your description very eloquent. It's very much my observation from afar, at least from what I've been seeing from how those guys teach. And and again, meeting Matt and his attitude towards learning down at the Combative Summit, I would bet that your description is dead on. Chris, your thoughts on that? The same kind of thought process that John was talking about. Do you feel um, the same way about that?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back a little bit in history. When I first brought them out, well, I'd brought Matt out before and hadn't really met him. I cold called him, brought him out for the team, really liked him. I thought his instruction was phenomenal. And then I saw that he was teaming up with Ben, and I had always wanted to train with Ben. Knowing Matt's personality, I'm like, man, he can't be this nasty guy that everybody talks about, right? And this is Ben I'm talking about. He can't be this nasty guy that everybody just puts down and talks about how much of an asshole he is. So I asked Matt. I was like, "Hey man, can I do a joint class between you and Ben for my SWAT team?" Yeah, absolutely. They organized it. We came out, or they came out, and Ben shows up. And we had done, it was me and like 4 or 5 of my guys the day prior. We just went out and did a shooting package with Ben and Matt, kind of like as a private, right? And all we did was provide the ammo for those guys. It was for our instructors. And I show up, and of course, Matt's there, and Matt and I have known each other for a while now. And then Ben's there, and go to talk to Ben, and he's very standoffish. Um, Barely said 2 words to me, and then I took a step back. And John, I don't remember if you met Durling, the big border patrol agent, like 6'7" border patrol agent that was there in the mornings.
No,
Uh,
I don't think so.
so it was Durling and I came to this class, and I look at Durling and I'm like, man, this guy's a dick, and we're going to put up with this guy for 5 days. I don't think this is going to go well. Now I see what everybody's talking about. And I'm going to kind of deep dive into this for a little bit. I got to know Ben kind of the same way, his instruction. And I'm like, hey, man, this guy is actually He just wants you to perform. Like, he wants you to be well. He wants you to perform well. And if you get into the law enforcement side of it, he wants you to win. He wants you to, take care of bad guys and keep American citizens safe. Well, getting to know him that way, I got to be really good friends with him. To the point now where I take care of his house for him. He's out of state, out of country. I take care of his house. The
Nice.
thing that people don't like about Ben, and John, I don't know if you'd recognize it either. Ben is just a very honest guy that he's not going to pat you on the back and tell you something that you're not, right? Like, hey, you're shooting great. No, if you're shooting like crap, he's going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can respect that, man, because we are in a time in American history where everybody wants to be told how great they are. And a lot of people, including these internet instructors, the Instagram guys, and a lot of old school instructors, just can't be faced with the fact that maybe people have progressed and we've learned a thing or two. And I just think I think it's an ego thing on some of the instructor side, and people can't accept the fact that there's a guy out there that knows what he's talking about, and he's very blunt. And if you meet Ben outside of a group setting, he'll probably hear this, and I've told him this before, he's very socially awkward. And it's just his personality, man. But once you get to know him, he's a really good dude. And if people would look past that, like John talked about, there is a wealth of knowledge that dude can provide, an absolute wealth of knowledge. But people hear from this guy that said this about Ben, that thinks Ben is this. And I actually, just to go down this again, I will post stuff about Ben and I will get DMs about how I hang out with him because he's so much of an asshole. And I'm just like, well, you don't know who Ben is. You don't know the true Ben. So,
Well,
I'll stop there.
I'd like to kind of expound on that for a second because there's something that, and maybe it's something that has been bugging me a little bit lately myself. Meaning, there is this weird, I don't know, the influencer side of things has been around for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it just really feels like in our realm, in this combatives, this firearms community, it does really feel like there's this race for attention online that's just unhealthy, and it makes me think about something that you said about Ben, about, hey, he's, everybody thinks he's an asshole, and then, he just, the way that he may be socially awkward at times, people need to get over certain things like that in the first place, because I think in the maturity of learning, I think the path that we're all on together, if you get hung up on people's personality, then I mean, you're just, I mean, to me, it's just immature. I don't know. That's one of my thoughts on it, and I've been seeing more and more of that. I don't know what it is. I think some of it may be the social media, the fact that we're on our phones all the time, and people aren't experiencing each other as much as they are experiencing each other online, is maybe part of the reason why some of that's happening. I mean, if you guys want to comment on that, I'm curious your thoughts.
Honestly, man, I think a lot of it is really to be. I think it's fun. Also, Ben is like he's. I like him honestly. Like I didn't find him as socially awkward. I mean, well, me and him are also the same age, but I thought he was yeah, he was a fucking funny dude. We had a good time talking together. So I think it's just like people they can't separate context from content. Like if you just like
There you go.
put Ben's words on a piece of paper and you just read the piece of paper, you'd be like, okay, yeah, that happened. But because it's coming from a person and it's also something that I think people are really like emotionally attached to, it's like they almost fight them just to cope with like
Yes.
um I think it's I think I realize that most of this whole business, right? People are very like emotionally attached to it, and they find just enough logic to justify the things that they're attached to.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that okay, why is combatives a niche idea, right? And it's because number one, people are intimidated by having a fight, and they're also intimidated by having to shoot. And people who are A types, they don't like the idea of being bad at something, and they especially don't like the idea of being bad at something in front of other people. So there's all these methods and all these kind of like these vague prescriptions, right? Of like, let's just get back off and make space, just shoot them. All these things that are really just they're logic to justify an emotional cope, right? So yeah, I don't think I think Ben finds it funny that people get so wrapped around because for him, it's fucking golf, right? It's bullet golf, and it's just like, man, this guy's really serious about it, and then he just like sees him, gets upset, and he just like, and he just like continues to push him, because it's funny. It is funny. So I was like,
Well,
what's that?
well, I would just say this again. I don't know Ben personally.
Yeah,
Um, I've not trained with him yet, and I'm, emphasizing the yet is that again. James Yeager said many times, the late great James Yeager said that his haters built his business, and
right.
what people don't realize is Ben's haters just might be building his business even better. So hey,
Yeah, yeah,
doom on them. I'm sure. I think it's kind of funny.
yeah.
I think it's good that it's happened that way. And what
It's
I would also add to that is that that shit doesn't bother me whatsoever. Any of the things that people think is silly or might rub them the wrong way about Ben doesn't bug me at all, man. I pay attention to everything he's been saying because a good majority of what he's saying is helping everybody,
yeah,
including myself through osmosis and putting to work as best I can on the range in my personal training, trying to put that stuff to use. I can't wait until I get to take the class in person. And Chris, I'll say this. So you said that that they're gonna keep coming out there.
Yeah. So Ben lives out here uh, half of the year. He bought a place in Gilbert. He's here pretty much when the winters are crappy in Wisconsin, and then when the summers are hot here, he goes back home. Um, so yeah, I think he's got the remainder of the year. He's still got 2 or 3 classes scheduled up until April or May. Then he'll go back east for a while when he's not traveling to other locations, and then he'll be back September, October of this coming fall, and then he'll do 4, 6, 8 classes, whatever, throughout the year in the fall and into 26.
So I will definitely stay in touch with you. I get back before Christmas,
Mhm.
and so I'll just plan on whenever one of those classes drops, I'll sign. I'm just an excuse to come out and see you. I'm sure Aaron will come out too.
Yeah, man.
So
Let me know too, because I know John. I don't even think you knew the pistol class was going on, right? And that's why I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it because I'm going to go to shot. And I offered him my spot, and I get stuff like that all the time, man. So if there's something that I can help with, let me know. And to touch on something John was saying, where Ben likes to poke those buttons, we were up at SHOT Show, and I posted a picture of Ben and I. We were out somewhere, and of course the hate mail starts coming in. So Ben, being wanting to push that button even more, gets on Instagram and says I'm his new his new director of freaking social media. And guess what, man? It just exploded.
that's awesome.
And to him, that was the funniest freaking thing in the world. And he just kept adding to it and adding to it. And it's just, people don't realize that all they're doing is making him more popular. The
Yep.
more hate they throw that guy without actually getting to know him, the more popular he becomes. And if they would just put their emotions aside, right? Like you guys were saying, and just be humble for a minute and take a class, you'd be amazed at what you can learn. Because I'll tell you what, those 2 guys have completely changed my shooting. 100%. They've changed my team's shooting. They've changed my team's culture when it comes to shooting and everything like that. And we are by far much better because of those guys. So,
Well, I know damn well you're an awesome shooter. I've been around you multiple times. Hell of a shooter. So it of course is working.
Absolutely, man. I'm accomplishing stuff now that 5 years ago I wouldn't have thought I could do, just because it was not part of what I was ever taught, right? Um, and not to say that the guys that I learned from were wrong. We've just evolved, you know. Like, you guys can probably get it. I go to my gym and I hear these guys talk about, well, that's old school jujitsu. It still works, but the new guys are 10 years ahead of where we were, 5 years ago. And you start to realize that, like, these young dudes coming up, man, are so far ahead because of the new coaching styles and the way they're teaching and the way people are learning now. Like, we have to evolve or we're just going to get left behind. And Matt and Ben are in that evolution process moving forward.
Awesome. Well put. So what I would say is let's talk a little specifics, and there's no reason why not to start the specifics discussion about doubles. So one of the things that I'll just put it this way is that, the way that Ben and Matt talk about that, it's not an engagement strategy. It is a learning tool, right? And so, I'll just let one of you guys, can you describe, I'll just ask John, since John was the first time he attended. Can you describe the doubles drills? I mean, it's an expansive drill, but can you describe for our audience what the purpose of what it is and what the purpose may be?
Okay. I'll give my best crack at this as far as what the specific drill is for people at home who don't know. It's as it implies doubles, where you are shooting a pair, all right, 2 shots, and you're doing that for 4 sets. Okay. Um, as far as like what it's meant to teach, it's meant to essentially force a student to have an understanding of, number one, input into the gun. So what are you doing with the trigger press? Are you pushing the gun to the side when you do it? Because you can draw to one shot and you can do a lot of weird things with your grip with just one shot. But when you do 2 consecutively and you do them fast, pretty much like so we have the predictive and reactive doubles, and we started with predictive. And again, it's not an engagement strategy. It's a training method. And the thing is, it's like you can get away with one shot, but when you have to do 2 and you're pressing the trigger as fast as you can, a lot of things get illuminated, right? It's almost like you start watching somebody and they're doing something weird with their body, and like, oh no, you don't did it. Like, hey, I didn't do that. Like, well, you look at the results of what's on the target and you understand, like, okay, I am actually doing weird things with my hand. I am actually clenching my entire hand, or doing something, giving some type of input into the gun, because the bullets will track that way and illuminate. And so it's meant to isolate all the smallest errors of your shooting as far as your grip goes, and also as far as where your visual focus is. I I think the slower you do it, so like if you do like pop 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 pop, like I think it's much easier than trying to like doing a pair, waiting and concentrate and focusing on the spot and making sure that the grip and everything like that, and then shooting another pair. It's actually a lot more mentally intensive than people think. It's much more of a mental of a mental process than it is as a physical one, because you have to concentrate on shooting and you also have to focus on getting rid of the problems. So at the main problem is, if you're a right-handed shooter, I think, is it the right-handed card or something like that? What did Matt call it, Chris?
I don't.
The
Like a
badge of the
seat
right-handed.
belt?
Yeah, so something or for that instance, right? Like you see the bullets are tracking left, which is a typical thing for right-handed shooters. You have to focus on moving your finger without like clenching your entire hand. So you have to hold the pistol, don't death grip it, and just press the trigger without disrupting or without giving input into the gun. So and you have to. So that's what I mean. Like it's more mental, because you have to. If that's something you're doing intuitively and you're not aware of it until you actually do the doubles, then you actually have to pay attention to what your hand's doing the second time around. So it's more of a drill that reveals, as far as where, and it reveals and isolates. And you have to be very you have to concentrate pretty hard. And I kind of compare that to a lot with fighting, whereas like we started everything off with, I typically coach people where I'll start them from defensive positions, and it takes a lot more work to get good at those things. But once they're at a subconscious level, then it makes all the offensive shit like it just basically like scaffold. Like that shit is like a domino effect for you to like have top pressure and be offensive with your fighting game. It's easy once you understand, as far as like where the defensive, where the fundamentals of what needs to be done intuitively and subconsciously. So that's what I got from the predictive doubles. And Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. What
No,
do you have to add to
it's
it?
all about, how you interpret it, right? I've had the fortune of going through this several times now. Um, Very much my first time, I was like, I understand what they're saying, but I'm not interpreting it to what I'm feeling, I guess you would say, right? And as I progressed and I asked more questions, doubles is like John was saying, it's designed to figure out where all your major, and I say major issues, are in your grip, right? Or your vision and your tension of your body. So if you're getting, this is the way I explain it to my students. If you're getting left and right deviation, it's a grip issue. If you're getting a high in the target, it's a going from the target to the dot, and you're seeing the dot here, and you're going, okay, it's within that brown, like Ben talks about, and pressing the trigger. And if you're getting a downward round into the target, it is very much you trying to input the gun at the wrong time. Uh, Now, as I've progressed in this, and I get it, and I teach it to the point where I go, hey, what you feel, you need to confirm with what you see, right?
Good
And I
point.
believe, I think it was Matt that said it shouldn't be pop up, pop up, pop up, 4 times. It should be pop up, confirm what you felt with what you saw, maybe for a second, and then do it again. In maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds, to evaluate what you felt break down in your hand compared to what you saw through the optic. And once I understood that, it completely changed how I understood doubles, because now everything that whenever I do doubles or whenever I shoot at a very fast pace, I can confirm if I did something wrong just by the feel of my hand. And then I'm sitting there going, yep, what I felt in my hands was confirmed by where the dot was when the round went off. And that's where you really start to go, okay. And it took me several times, like several classes, to understand what they were saying. So if I'm sitting here and I feel my hand loosen up on, say, the third set of doubles, and I go, man, I think I loosened my support hand grip. I did, because the round is, I watched the dot go to the left and I pressed the trigger, and I'm confirming it here and visually. Um, so yeah, it is definitely something that you will have to work on and get to that understanding of, okay, here's what I felt, here's what I saw. Let me fix it, like John was saying, fix it. And by the time you're done, what do you guys do? Like, I think we had averaged 3 magazines of doubles, right?
Yeah,
Um,
something like that. It was a
and
lot.
by the time you're done with that, number one, your forearms are smoked. Mentally, you're like, well, I suck because everything's all over the place. And but you're starting to realize, hey, it's these little minute things that I'm doing is creating the problems on the target. And I have to understand, feeling wise, what I'm doing visually, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say this again. You guys have taken the class. Of course, John, first time. You've taken it multiple times, Chris. So I am in my infancy of understanding doubles, and it's like anything else. That's a little bit. It's not that a beginner shooter can't use doubles.
No.
I think that, and that's the beauty about it, is that any level can use it.
So
I do on the other side believe that is it is a there's a higher understanding and a very much, to use their word, inductive. You really have to be um self-aware of what's going on, and like you had said about how Matt talked about using having a little bit more time between the pairs, but making sure that you're observing what's happening at each pair. Now, I just want to say this. When I heard him say that the last time I went and did doubles, because when I was doing it, I was learning a lot from him, but it's easy for that set of four pairs to get away from you.
yeah.
And you only learn a little bit about it, and you've just shot 8 rounds.
Hmm.
When you're not learning individually each one of those pairs. So when I heard Matt say that, my last 2 trips to the range, doubles made way more sense to me. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because again, this show is about helping people in the audience understand these principles and understand what they're going to get into if they take a class. Is that those are key takeaways, and it made that drill way more useful for me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk on the internet, and actually out here in Arizona, man, we have a lot of really good shooters, right? There's Rob Latham, there's Todd
Mm-hmm.
Jarrett was out here for a while. All these phenomenal guys that we're
Tim
fortunate,
Herron.
yeah, that we're fortunate to have here. And I heard a pretty impressive shooter say, "Hey, man, we've come full circle, and now everybody's talking about doubles." And yeah, back in my day, that was called a hammer pair, and it's like you don't understand.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not even in the same spectrum, man. Hammer pair is an engagement sequence. Technically, I don't know if I agree with that, but this is a learning process, not some type of engagement sequence. And that's exactly what these guys talk about. Hey, we're doing this to figure out where your breakdown and your grip, even more so tension, John. I'm sure you felt it, right? Like the first time I tried doubles, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what exactly doubles is. And again, it comes full circle to people wanting to talk about something they don't understand, but they think they do, right? And that's why the fact that these guys are putting that information out there is phenomenal, because the first thing they tell you, this is not an engagement sequence. This is a process to break down where your failure points are, right? With predictive. Then you go to reactive, and reactive is like, hey, man, and there's different levels of reactive, right? There's like, I have to take a very, very precise shot at, say, 20 yards. So I need to see that dot kind of pause the way they describe it. It's going to pause, boom, pause, boom.
All right, gents. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Difficulty. No big deal. We're going to jump back into this. So we were talking about doubles. Now, guys, what I will say, and I think this is a crucial point, is that, and I'll let you guys, with your far more experience with it than I, is it is intended to push you to failure, right? And push you to failure to learn from it, right? Which you guys were articulating, but I think it's important to drive that point home for folks that, again, that are out there in the internet world and, seeing what they're seeing online, is to understand that, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to have misses. I mean, you want to try to control having deltas and whatnot, but it's okay to have some Charlies in there, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's failure, right? Because the people who kind of articulate it as failure, those generally they're training to kind of like a almost like a qualification standard, right? Like,
Mm.
Yeah.
and that's really why people have such a difficult time wrapping their minds around this idea. What I what I think is more precise description is that they're pushing you to your threshold and seeing where you're what is it that where do you exceed your threshold in terms of getting the results you want, and why does that happen? And they're trying to get you to on your own. This is kind of a weird thing because on one hand, they're trying to make it to where you can train without them, that you do not
Mhm.
need them to diagnose your issues. And then on the other hand, it's like they almost gain more commitment and more of a following because of that, because like they're not trying to own the students or own the results or anything like that. They're just giving you the tools, you experiment with them, and they put you in a circumstance to build something. And it's just like, well, that didn't come out the way you wanted. Why? And then you can, in real time, assess what it is that's going on. And it's like, okay, I was lazy with my vision, or too much tension with my grip, and or I'm feeling I got tension in my neck and it's supposed to be below my elbows or something to that effect, right? Just kind of a just an as an example. So I think failure wouldn't be exactly right. I think a more precise ways to think about it is like you're trying to see what is your threshold, what it takes to, and what's going to take to isolate that, as far as like why aren't you getting the results you want. And that's the part that makes it so mentally exhausting, because you have to put your mind on that one thing that is not as really that's limiting, and it's something that you've been doing almost like habitually, so you're not even aware of it until you go through the drill. um yeah, that's what I got on that.
Well, what I would say, John, and I like the way Matt Pranka said it. He said, you wouldn't take a car to a mechanic unless you break it first. So pushing yourself to where that you may drop some rounds and then simply and then learn from it. So I like the way that he said that. Go ahead, Chris.
So I just wanted to touch on that before I lose my thought, because I I'm thinking of like 10 different things right here. But to go back on what both you guys are saying, um, John, do you remember where they had you like go as fast as you could, and Matt was like, a hit on Brown is as good as two alphas,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So they Matt calls it. I don't know if Ben ever talked about it, but I know Matt says, I had to make some notes. You have acceptable, right? Then you have good, and then you have what is possible. So like acceptable is a passing score, as John was saying. Guys are looking at this as a qualification. Okay, a qualification is acceptable, right? Like who cares? Most qualifications are overly overly dumbed down for the lowest common denominator. So that's acceptable, right? And then you have, say, what's good? Hey, I'm going to go out there and my goal is to shoot a 2.25 bill drill. Okay. All right, so that you're up there, that's pretty good. And then you have what is possible is, let's take it to that next level and let's shoot a 198 bill drill and see where I am. Hey, yeah, I got a couple low deltas, because as I was coming up, I was shooting, or I got a couple high because I looked at the dot. But now you realize, hey, man, I can get the time. Now I have to bring it into the center, right? And that's about controlling my grip, understanding my vision, and realizing, hey, this is possible. I just have to fix those minute things. So I really like how they describe it as acceptable, good, and possible. And when they make you go to your threshold, you realize, hey, I'm capable of much more than I'm doing right now if I let myself get those deltas and get those charlies. Then I can fix it at that speed. May not happen right away, but it's going to take time. But this level here is possible, and I like the way that's put.
Nice. And what I to try to give some additional input into what I am taking away from learning from Matt and Ben is a big change that I've made this year has been changing the way I press the trigger and using the more rolling style of trigger press than because I used to be a slack out person. but knowing that when I'm shooting fast, I don't slack out,
Mm-hmm.
right? But now shooting at distance, 15 or 25 or further, I definitively have trained to the point where in recoil, or like as I'm drawn to that shot, I'm taking the slack up to the quote unquote wall and then pressing, right? But what I certainly have been implementing is the more rolling on all shots, and that has made a huge, including on B8 bull stuff. Now, granted, I start with touching the trigger face, and then I do the roll through trigger press. But I'll make my point this way. One of the coolest parts about the classes that I've been seeing is that Ben and Matt has the clients dry fire quite a bit to learn the concept, and or it, to me, what I observe is also doing the drill itself, but then providing a dry fire method that is also working on the same skills. Would you agree with that, guys?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And this is what I mean, that it's almost counterintuitive, because it's like you don't even really even need to go to the class. And not even that, not just that, but like they'll put the class on YouTube. And it's so contra to everything that I've seen coming into this space. Like everybody wants to keep their shit hidden. Nobody really likes the whole idea of marketing. They don't like to go after people. It's like they just looked at what everybody else is doing and they're like, yeah, let's do exactly the fucking opposite.
Yep.
And it's fucking working. It's working. Um, and I'm a fan. I really like the way they train. I like the way that whole concept of putting your class out on social media. Like I've got a private seminar that I'm going to do next month in Colorado. Like I'm going to record that, put that on YouTube, and
Can't wait, man.
if it gets scrutinized and whatever, that's just going to help me get better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, people will, again, right? Like I'm not going to take things personally. It's just like, let me look at this objectively and see how I can improve. And I think what's going on here, as far as like how we evolved, as Chris was saying, like all of this is going through these core drills, these fundamental drills, is like there's so much refinement going on. And on top of them being able to tell you what their experience was at that level, meaning like at a beginner's level, um, they're also giving you insight in terms of like what they're getting from it right now. Um, and that kind of wisdom is worth the cost of admission, I think, itself. And I think being there in person, even watching the class online, like being there in person is a whole different thing. Like when they're actually coaching
Sure.
you, Ben comes and like he's checking everybody. Matt does the same thing. And then the quality of the people there, like Christian Seiler was there. And watching like a world champion work right next to you on the same line,
Nice.
doing the same drills, not being above it. And it like lately I've been on this idea of being a good amateur versus being a professional, and
Nice.
embodying professionalism. And like that was it. Like watching Christian like go through that shit and like really like put like he just put his whole ass into every single drill. And that was good to see. And I think that was value added to the entire class that you just can't get from watching on YouTube.
Yeah, I also think that that's part of the lure, right? Like guys are like, "Hey man, these guys are putting all this information out. Imagine what I could gain
Yep.
if I go in person,"
Yep.
right? And then
You beat me to it, buddy.
yeah, they're able to look at the video and then they're going to class and they're like, "Holy cow, this is amazing," And then like he was saying, there was multiple really good shooters in that class, and these guys can challenge you from your very beginner all the way up. Like the dude I gave my spot to barely held a gun, right? And I'm like, hey man, I want you to learn how to shoot. I'm going to give you this spot because these are
Awesome.
the guys I want you to listen to learn from. You know what I mean? And guess what? The kid's well, he's a natural athlete, anyways. but he's also he's now becoming a very, very good shooter, and it just and now he's hooked on shooting too, which is a good thing, right? We have another ally in our community.
That's awesome, and I think it's important to put a fine point on it. Is you can learn so much from what we've been talking about, what I've been learning from the videos and the information that Ben and Matt are putting out. But you hit it on the head. You can certainly learn on your own, but you're going to learn exponentially more if you get to their class. And I do think that is brilliant marketing on their part, is to put it all out there, because we all know, all of us are decently experienced shooters, and we know that we can glean all kinds of information off of good information online, but or even back in the day when we used to get a lot of this stuff on VHS or DVD. I know all of us have done that, but man, how much you can get out of training directly with them. Yeah.
I'll bring up a point. The reason I picked Matt Pranka is because I was watching him on Instagram, and he was giving away free information years ago, and I'm like, hey man, this, number one, he's a phenomenal shooter. He's very well spoken. He explains things very well, and he's not asking for any money. Like, he wants people to be better. And that's how I ended up cold calling him, going, hey man, I like what you're putting out. Would you come and work with my team? And next thing I know, and stupid cheap. Like, he was willing to do 20 guys, like 4 or 5 days for like $5,000. And I'm like, dude, no,
Yeah, that's cheap, man.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. So I think that brings a lot of it is people see that level and they go, man, I just want this. I want it in person now. I can take it to a certain level. John, did you do any of the drills or any of the instruction that you saw online and then come to the class to implement them even at a in-person level?
You mean like from previous classes? Yeah, I mean from the YouTube videos. Yeah, I was using a lot of it to experiment. I try to shoot at least twice a week. I go on Friday and Saturday afternoon unless there's a match, and I go at those times because it's free for me for military
Nice.
at that time. But yeah, I mean, but even then, it was like the information was there, but being able to ask them questions about specific things. I mean, then it was like, oh, now it all kind of like came together.
It's
And yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but it's like the conversations are out there floating around, and you have people, they're trying to put their own spin and interpretation, whether they and they're really just coloring it through the lens that they come from. So it's like you talked about the hammer pairs, like that's not even close to the fucking same thing.
Nope.
Like not even close to the same thing. And and also this also trying to inject context and just adding a whole bunch of like just complicating everything, just making it's just like, no, it's a very very simple drill. It's not easy, but it's very very simple, and it's all about that, the threshold, and really like Ben is just going to make you um not even get comfortable being uncomfortable, just make you just create discomfort, as that's the condition. Like that's it. You're just uncomfortable. You're fucking exhausted mentally. Like that is how to like that's what it takes to win. And it doesn't matter like if you're talking about matches or you're talking about gunfights. Like that's what it takes. Like you've got to push yourself to this point. And yeah, that's what I got from it.
So
Awesome. Go ahead, Chris.
no, to back that up, man, like I was at a class that was being taught by some guys that I know that I'm friends with, and one of them was regurgitating what Ben was saying, and he didn't have an understanding because he watched the videos and he was going off of what Ben was saying, thinking he knew, and I kind of pulled him aside and I'm like, hey man, what you're talking about isn't exactly right. Let me kind of show you where his thought process is and what he's thinking and why he teaches. And I was kind of blown off, and it was like, yeah, well, whatever. You're not a ranked USPSA shooter, so just go stand over there and help make sure nobody shoots themselves. I'm like, okay, whatever. Um, but it's very much
Again, we're talking ego here.
huge, absolutely. But then I see these young guys that will go and watch the stuff that Ben and Matt are putting out, and they show up to a class, or even more so, I have a bunch of these guys that are coming through some of these Arizona Post Firearms instructor courses, and these dudes are studs on the range, man. And I'm like, hey, man, where'd you learn how to shoot? Oh, I don't know if you heard of this guy Ben Stoeger, but I've been following him for 3 or 4 years now, and I'm like, dude, that's exactly the guy I want you following, And this kid's coming up, and I'm like having to race against this dude just to keep up, and I'm like, whew, I still got it a little bit, but these kids now are just crushing it with the information that these guys are putting out, and that's what we want, right? We want people to be successful, especially in law enforcement and military realm, and if they can put that out like I'm seeing on my end, hell yeah, man, because those are going to be the guys that are going to be here 10 years that are going to take it to the next level, you know? And then let me see, I jotted something else down, but I think that was pretty much it. Yeah, it's obviously paying off because the new level of students that are coming up in the shooting realm are paying attention to these guys, and we're seeing the results on the range, and you can't argue that.
Well, and what I'd say is that I think it's honestly profound that we've spent nearly an hour really, talking about the class, talking about, personalities and things like that. But we've really only been talking about doubles, and that was only a minor portion of the class. I mean, for the audience out there, of course, you get into the reactive shooting, right? Which we can talk about a little bit if you guys like, but also a heavy emphasis on transitions. And I really honestly love the way that Ben and Matt had you guys doing transitions, because it's not always about setting up this array of targets, and especially in that setting, you got people online, multiple people on the line of firing, but having targets decently close together because it's the way it has to be done because of the size of the range, but also the intent of the way those transition drills are done. Because, I mean, you got two targets. Of course, you start transitions with two on each, shoot that drill for a while. And I know I don't intend to breeze over this, but I'd like to hit on a little bit of this further. And then you go to two on target one, two on target two, back to target one, two again. So 6 engagements. And the third iteration being 2 engagements on each. So you've got 8 shots on both targets, right? So building upon that, but what I noticed is it is a fairly good way to learn about transitioning and just only 2 targets, because you're having not just you can say that you're transitioning 4 times on the last drill, right? And really understanding how your vision works, not seeing your dot return on target one when you shouldn't have. You should be already eyes moving to the next target for your transition, so on and so forth. Do either one of you guys want to talk about what you got out of the transition portion of the class?
Man, the more I work on transitions, the more I get out of it. The same way with doubles. It's just like it these they talked about like the first half of the day for the pistol class. Like we went through doubles, practical accuracy, doing predictive and reactive shooting, and we also did the bar hop and like a lot of transitions. And just those like I spent a lot of time doing dry fire on that and working on those skills. And like the more I do it, the more I continue to learn, and like the more I continue to unpack at it. And and now I even look at like a draw to the first 2 shots. Now I look at that as a transition from the holster up. So even
Nice.
then, like even like we want to like insert context, right? Um it makes the self-defense shooting so much easier because I already know where I need the bullets to go, and all I got to do is transition from the holster to the target because I already know where the target's at. So even though the training method is like, okay, people will look at that like, oh, when are you going to get into a fight where you have permission to shoot two guys? I mean, the shit happens. Number one. Number two is that like, well, if I can shoot two targets relatively fast, probably faster than you can get from out the holster. Shooting one target's going to be pretty damn easy. And it's funny too because you'll talk to these people about fighting, and then they'll bring up multiple opponents, but can't fuck up one dude. But
Yeah.
anyway, so but it
Yep.
so yeah. So again, right, that whole finding enough logic to justify the emotions, right? So, but yeah, like I think the target transitions, man, especially like the whole idea of the target focused shooting. I think that's a relatively underappreciated and profound innovation of shooting within the last 10 years.
To include with irons, right?
Yes, yeah. And that's why I'm like, I walked away out of this class like, oh, practical shooting is a combat sport.
Mm-hmm.
And like me and Matt been talking about this, Pranka, exchanging messages about it because like jiu-jitsu has been mainstream like 30 years thanks to the UFC, and practical shooting has been around for like 50 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more. So that's like a whole generation more or two generations more involved in it, and so far removed from Jeff Cooper. And it's like every martial art, what happens is like when you introduce competition, the skill level fucking skyrockets because everybody gets into a process of repetition and refinement. And the other thing is that the further down the line we get in the generations, the further they're removed from the sources they get. And then they start to move off azimuth.
Yep.
So the games that we use to get better end up becoming like the whole goal of winning the game. Because people get good at exploiting the rules. And that's where jiu-jitsu is. That's where like a lot of MMA is and everything like that. And that's definitely where competition shooting is. But again, right, like there's still a lot of combat application there. And there's still like the skills will translate. It's just like, and it's not to say that a competition shooter can't do that. It's just interesting to me all the parallels that are there with combat sports. So the training methods, isolating specific areas of where threshold is exceed or where you get a result you don't want, and like you kind of like backpedal and you unpack it, and you break the thing down into the lowest level possible, and just like focus on that one point. And and then there's just kind of like this whole dynamic application, and there is a real pressure test that's going along with the skill, and it's all objective. It's just like you did that and that happened, and like it's a very honest experience, just like combat any combat sport is. There isn't the whole physical adversity per se, but there's certainly some pressure testing going on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Mike Pannone said it best, man. He's like, hey, if you can't determine the difference between a gunfight and a shooting competition in USPSA, we got bigger problems, you know? And he's absolutely right. But as far as transitions go on my end, I've been shooting a long time, and I would shoot transitions, and I'd have rounds either inside the Charlie Delta zone or outside the Charlie Delta zone, right? Like either leading too soon or leading too late. And I'd look at it and go, oh, I screwed up, right? But once those guys were able to articulate, hey, man, you're doing this because you're seeing the whole target instead of picking out a point in the A zone or whatever you're looking to shoot, it started to click. I'm like, okay. And Ben talks about it relentlessly. He's like, where your eyes go, the bullets will go. And now that I'm working those transitions, just like John, like that's my big focus right now. I need to break my splits between target to target. And I need to understand how, as I come across, I'm picking a point. I'm not seeing the whole brown. And I never understood what they meant by that until going to these classes multiple times. I'm like, I was out shooting with some guys this weekend. We were working transitions, and I had a tight Charlie and a far Delta. And I looked, and it clicked. It was like this light bulb moment came on, and I went, I saw the whole target. I saw brown. I didn't see a pasty in the center of the target. I just saw brown, and I let it rip. Right. And realistically, if I had focused on that point and taken maybe 100th of a second more, would it really have changed my time? Probably not. And it's so important. Those are the little things that you pick up and go, I'm seeing the whole target. I'm not picking a spot. On the transitions, it is huge for me. And now I understand why I'm either far right or inside the target if I'm going right, left to right, if that makes sense.
Well, Chris, what I'd like to say regarding that, the whole paster in, the high A zone, higher A zone of a USPSA target or an IDPA target, we know that is also a training tool, right? But what I would tell you is that, like, when I set up arrays of targets, when I'm, out training myself or with some of my friends or training partners, is just putting those pasters, in the A zone to have a focal point has paid huge dividends. Now, I want to be clear. We know that, when you're shooting a match, you're not going to have a pasty in the A zone. But the tool itself of using it in training helps me effectively, more precisely pick those points on a brown target. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The it's like when you want to throw a punch at somebody, right? Like you're not really like looking behind your knuckles and just lining them up and then watching the chin be blurry and behind your fist and then throwing it. It's like you want that hand-eye coordination of where it's like you look, the gun comes and you just send the shots. And that's like, again, like that's really everything that's really coming from transition. Like I'm able to do that so much better, and I'm able to perceive where my dot is as far as like um when I was dry firing, after the class, it was like I noticed that, okay, I am over traveling, and then I'm coming back. So I was like, all right, so let me see exactly how much muscle I need to bring it over.
Mm.
And I shoot a CZ Shadow 2, so it's like a 54-ounce gun, right? It's kind of heavy. So I'm like fucking, just muscling it over. So I was just like, okay, I don't need that much, and it just the subtle movements and just everything is a process of efficiency and really just picking a microscopic spot on the target. So again, right, it's just a training method in terms of like you have to pick a spot, so you drive your eyes to the spot, and then once you get good at that too, Ben is always saying, like, number one, don't put it on your dry fire targets.
Yes.
And number two, it's like, okay, you're getting good at this, now it's time to take the training wheels off. Because what
Training
happens
wheels,
is,
yeah.
yeah, because people they'll get caught up in that, and they'll like the results they get. Again, right? These emotional attachments, they're fucking with us, and they're holding us back, right? And avoiding the negative emotion, that's really fucking holding us back. So I'm guilty of it too, guys. Right? Like I'm a human just like the rest of everybody else, right? I'm just more aware of my own inadequacies than most, right? But you need to make sure that you're not falling in love with the results. That you need to be invested in that process, because the results will come.
Yep.
Like a lot of guys will, they'll get so caught up with trying to be a grandmaster, and they want to get the results because they want to be a grandmaster. And it's just like, if you're engaged in the process, and that result will come. And so you have to use these training methods to far as like, if to get you where you need to be. Once the results start getting to where you want them to be, now it's time to take those training wheels off and then start pushing things even further. So like from time to time, I'll switch out to half scale targets, and then I'll use like a paster on it. If it's just garbage or anything like that, then I'll start training it with a paster. And then like once they're again the results the way I want, I already know and I've proven to myself that I can get this in the A zone on a half scale target. So now it's time to take the pacers away and then work on it from there. And again, right, like throughout this class is it's that structure is like we start with the easiest level first, then we escalate, we take that a little bit hard, a little bit, add more, a little bit more difficulty. Then we add a little bit more difficulty, and then we have a culmination of all the skills together where it's like just kind of one big drill. And I really like that whole buildup that they have, that you doing. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So as far as the paster goes, I I apologize. I wasn't talking about a black one. I was talking about like a paster that I pasted in the center to cover my.
Oh, gotcha. I'm sorry.
But no, you're fine, man. And I'm going to piggyback again on John saying I'm to the point now where I want to intentionally get myself to focus on something. So I'm using I can't even what's basically I'm putting a white IPSC. I'm doing a reduced target. Okay, so I'm either putting one far left, far right, or underneath. So I'm having to drive my vision to the spot I want. And I notice what I do is if I put a white IPSC on the right side of the target as I'm going left to right, and I look at that white target, taped to the or stapled to the C zone, and I look at that instead of picking up the center A, guess where my rounds go? Right into the white target, right? So I'm trying to intentionally create that division where my vision is going to the brown center compared to going to the white. It's like if I go to the white, I'm going to shoot it. And if you guys saw some of the videos I posted this week, I had this burner of a run and 5 rounds, 3 different targets. And one was an open target, one was a semi partial block target, and the other one was basically only the A zone was exposed. Burned it down on the first one. I come across, I burn it down on the second one. I transitioned to the A zone with the 2 white targets. I thought I had a clean run. I turned back to look at the time, and my buddy's like, "Hey man, that was a 4.64, but you shot the no target on the center one." And I'm like, I look down, I'm about a half an inch low into the white target, and I got lazy. I went 1, 2, 3, 4. I gave up and I started moving my eyes, and guess what happened? That round just went low because I remember looking at the head of the white and just driving my eyes, and that's right where the round went. And it's the vision is such an important part of this. It's ridiculous. It really is, man.
Well, and one of the things I'd like to impart, especially for audience members out there that might be trying to get something out of this, another aspect of transitions that I think is important is that we don't have to muscle the gun around. I mean, John brought that up. I think it's really crucial to understand that, we can relax and shoot as fast as our eyes can see. We don't have to drive and Ben does excellent demonstrations about what not to do. And I really commend Ben for, being able to provide, 2, 3 different examples of what not to do, so, but that fact of trying to muscle into driving to the transitions is absolutely something we can all fall into, and it is just absolutely not necessary.
His ability to demonstrate things wrong in such a good way is scary. It
Yeah.
really is, because you're like, I wish I could do that and show students what wrong looks like. I just do wrong because I'm screwed up.
well,
He's like, "Oh, I'm going to shoot this wrong,"
and to me, at my level of shooting, meaning that I'm nowhere near that, and even as an instructor, a local regional instructor, um, if I start trying to demo stuff wrong on a regular basis, I'm afraid I'm going to start doing it wrong on accident. Well, hell, like you said, Chris, I can do shit wrong on my own.
100%, man. And when you actually, his exact words are, and John can back me up, I'm going to make an example of what not to do. And you're like, okay. And the first time you see it, you're like, okay, this is going to look obviously wrong, right? And then he does it, and you're like, man, that was pretty good. And I really have to pick out the things that were wrong. And then he'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it this way now. And he does it. And, I think Matt says it best. And Matt said it in that class a couple of times. And, Ben weaponizes autism, man. And he is
Yeah, he did say that. I
scared,
laughed my ass off when I heard that.
And I just, that shows you the level of instructor that dude really is.
Yeah, I've been certainly impressed with that. Well, guys, listen, we're getting at over an hour and a half here. I think I've taken enough of your guys' time. To be honest, I mean, we didn't even get into carbine. We didn't get into any of that. So maybe we're going to have to do a follow up on this. Guys, I tell you, this has been a blast, and like we mentioned pre-show, is that Aaron and I have not been able to put out shows like we normally do. And just hanging out with you guys tonight, it just joys my heart. I really appreciate you guys giving me your time and giving the audience your time. It's been awesome. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Hey, please pass on to Aaron our condolences, man. That's terrible news. And having lost my dad a couple years ago, it's not easy, man. And I absolutely, you guys are going to be in my prayers for sure.
Well, thank you very much. We hadn't talked about it online or on air yet, but to what Chris is mentioning, my brother and I lost our father a couple of weeks ago, which was obviously very, very difficult, and we're getting better at dealing with it every day. But Dad, I miss you for certain. And well, gents, I tell you, it's been a blast. And if you guys have anything else you really wanted to add, I'm cool with it. But if not, I can bid you guys good evening.
Put your ego aside and go take a class from those guys.
I know one thing I want to make sure that, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but John, you want to give a shout out to the upcoming Combative Summit?
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So the next Combative Summit, number one, if you're on the fence about it, like you need to pick your ticket up like right now, because like we already got more than half of the early bird slots sold. Like we're like at just under 60% sold on the early bird slots. We've got 20 instructors. The website I went through it's up to date. The only person that is not on it yet, that I have not announced yet, and I'll do it here for exclusively for EvoSec, is Mark Denny of the Dog Brothers.
Oh, nice.
He's going to be giving a collaborative class with Matt Larson on creating cultures of excellence and commitment. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting.
Excuse me.
And the next Combative Summit is going to be October 24th to the 26th in D'Iberville, Mississippi. You should it's not like a remote location. It's not like a range or anything like that. D'Iberville is an incredible town. It has all of the Vegas level amenities, including casinos, but it's on a beach. It has deep South pricing and hospitality, and none of the degeneracy that Vegas has. So it's going to be it's in a like a really, really well kept secret there. So yeah, if you can bring your family, I would. I do, in fact. I bring my wife.
Like a vacation.
Yeah. So yeah, you should definitely. I recommend doing that. And yeah, man, we've got 20 of pretty much anybody who has made any significant contributions to the interdisciplinary field. Craig Douglas, Matt Larson, Mark Denny, Tom Kyer of Seok Tactical. Kelly McCann is going to be there this year.
Nice.
Mike Sanford, Bare Knuckle MMA. We have Brandon Davis, a Bare Knuckle MMA champion. I'll be there. And the thing is, you're also going to get a free swag from us, which is like about $150 of free.
Yeah. You're going to get some awesome swag, man.
You're going to get a free holster from Tenacor, and you're going to get a free fanny pack from Vertex Gear, as well as coffee from First Responders Coffee Company. So it's
Awesome.
like you're getting about $350 worth of free shit just by signing up. And then like I don't know if there's ever been, I mean, Chris, you've been around a while. I don't know if there's ever been any kind of event like this, like focus on like the application side of self-defense.
No, man, absolutely not. One, it's usually one or the other. In the joint training is just awesome, man. That I wish I could make it. My daughter's getting married
Oh, yeah.
that week, so I plan on being there so I can get beat up one of these days.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure. And Matt
what
Franco will be there too. I forgot.
Yep. Yeah, that is right. What I would tell you, and I said it at the beginning, it is a life changing event. It will be for anybody that makes the decision to be there. I mean, again, I've only been at the inaugural event. When I say only, it was unbelievable, phenomenal. I mean, it was the first event. I talked about it ad nauseum, it is probably I I'll just put it this way: there are awesome shooting events out there. We got Tac-Con, we got all the types of events, and you should be going to Tac-Con as well. That said, the most important thing for you to have in your skill set, obviously, we know is the awareness piece. Be able to de-escalate. But next in that is fitness and combatives and being able to fight. So folks that are serious about self-defense, if you can't fight with your fists and fight with your wrestling or your jiu-jitsu, you need to be closing that loop. It is. I say this all. It's more important than the tools that you carry. By far, it is more important than the tools. The tools that we carry, our blades, our pistols, as important as all that is. It's honestly low down the totem pole when it really comes down to it. So,
That's
go
that's
ahead,
100%
Chris.
true, man. You guys have seen it. I've seen it, especially in law enforcement and American citizens as a whole. Interpersonal violence is becoming more common, right? And unfortunately, we can't shoot everybody, right? Because you end up going to prison if you shoot the wrong person. So that ability to defend yourself with your hands and your mind is, I'm not going to say far superior than being able to shoot well, but if you have to pick one, I would learn to shoot okay and learn to fight really well.
Yeah, I love that way to put it, Chris. Learn to shoot well, but but really learn how to fight really good. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I dig it. Yeah, get in, and sign up for the Combative Summit. I promise you, it will be one of the most awesome events of your lifetime. And that is not hyperbole. And like John mentioned, it's in an awesome area. You can have a good time outside of training. And we all have been to events before, all the courses we take, and just like at the Combative Summit, the elation that I felt after the fact was awesome. You feel accomplishment, you feel brotherhood, love for your fellow practitioners. It's an awesome event. So get out there and sign it. I'll have it in the show notes, easily be able to click on the link. So with that said, gents, you guys have a blessed evening, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Later, gents.